Um, Thanks very much, comrades. My name is Lucy Honan. This is Hannah Clark. We're both rank and file members of the Australian Education Union. I'm a high school teacher. Hannah's a primary school teacher. We're here to talk to you today to ask for your solidarity, actually. We've organised a teachers' walkout over refugees. Next Tuesday... Next Tuesday after lunch, hundreds of teachers in schools across Victoria and Queensland will be walking off the job. We'll be holding a rally at 2:30 p.m. at the State Library. Our demands are to get the kids off Nauru urgently, to get everybody off Nauru urgently, and to permanently resettle all of those kids and adults in our community, not putting them in jails here, not keeping the threat of returning them to offshore camps over them, but resettling them and welcoming them into our communities. This has been a really huge issue for so many people across the community. You would have seen it in the news. Doctors, nurses, church leaders. The UN has called for Australia to close the offshore camps. There's a special reason, though, why teachers are speaking out about this, and that's largely because either teachers have worked in the offshore camps, or we've taught kids who have come off them, or we've taught kids who have unfortunately been drenched in the racism that the Australian government has been sowing for too long around refugees. I'm going to hand over to Hannah, who is going to talk about her experiences teaching refugees.
Hi, thanks for having us. I've been a teacher for 15 years. I've taught many refugee kids over those years, many with traumatic stories, stories of survival, many living with trauma. However, those kids have been able to resettle. They've been able to come to Australia, and they've been able to begin to heal and begin to build their lives with their families here. The kids in Nauru aren't getting that opportunity. Earlier this year, I got a new student, a traumatised 6-year-old boy who had been living on Nauru for 5 years. He arrived on Christmas Island when he was 6 months old, and Nauru is all he's known. When he first arrived in my classroom, he occupied very little space, which if you know any 6-year-olds, that's not really the norm. He would just sit. I would have to invite him to look at other areas in the classroom. I'd have to invite him to play with toys. He wouldn't initiate conversation unless someone spoke to him. He was very traumatised. The only reason he was in my classroom was because his teenage sister, had become so unwell, emotionally, psychologically, and physically, that she'd been evacuated. So she was in hospital being treated, and he was in my classroom. The father had reported to me that the worse the sister got, the worse the whole family got. And my 6-year-old student watched his big sister deteriorate, and so did he. Thankfully, once she got here, she was given medical treatment, psychological treatment, and she began to get better, and so did my 6-year-old student. It's been both sort of bittersweet to see him come out of his traumatised shell, to see him make friends, to see other kids take him under their wing and teach him how to do Lego and play games in the yard. And most of all, it's been really heartening to see him develop a sense of belonging in our school community. The community's really been able to rally around him and make him and his family feel welcome. Again, the kids on Nauru aren't getting that option. In just 6 months, he's learnt to read and write, he's made best friends, and he's just come so far. As teachers, it's our core business to know what's right for kids. We're trained to know what kids need and to look for warning signs. For us, this is a big warning sign, the whole situation. We have a duty of care to advocate for kids, for children in our care, and that's what we feel we're doing. We're taught to model care and compassion in our classrooms. We teach our students the importance of speaking up when you see something wrong. We teach them the importance of standing by one another, standing up for your mates. We teach them to stand up to bullies. we teach them to look out for each other. So as teachers, we believe it's our professional and moral obligation to stand together and tell this government, based on our professional knowledge, our professional experience, that this is having damaging effects on children and their adults. We've had some experience from radio jocks and politicians telling us to stay out of politics, to stick to our classrooms. But the fact is these policies are affecting our classrooms. They're affecting our students. We're the ones picking up the pieces of these broken lives. So that's really why we're wanting to take action.
I just wanted to add that I guess we're coming at this not just as teachers but also as unionists. There's a lot of refugee bashing that's aimed right at the heart of working class people. We're supposed to blame refugees for all the infrastructure that the Liberals and our governments haven't built. We're supposed to blame refugees for all the insecurity. But it's billions of dollars a year that the government is spending locking up these kids and these adults that we see could be spent on our schools. But also, we've been inspired by the Change the Rules campaign. Teachers have learnt a lot from that, actually, through the delegates' meetings and the massive rallies where we've seen you all mobilising. We have learned that when the rules are broken, it's down to us to stand up and to make a difference and to change it. And we have been standing up to the shock jocks, to the education ministers, both federal and local, and also to our bosses, to the Herald Sun, and all the intimidation of people saying you're going to lose your jobs. But we won't back down. This won't be resolved at the next election. Labor still is committed to keeping those kids in the camps, and Labor is committed to offshore detention. And we know that CFMEU delegates to the Labor conference in December could help change Labor's policy. But we don't even have to wait for the Labor conference. I don't need to tell you that seeing CFMEU flags on the street is going to send a shiver down the spine of the Liberal government and a shot in the arm to any working people and any people who are being downtrodden. So we are asking for your solidarity. We'll have NUW, ETU, ASU and NTEU flags supporting us on the day, and we would love to see some CFMEU flags as well in solidarity with us on the 20th, marching for kids off Nauru, all off Nauru, bring them here.